Today I'm reacting to your Royal Rumble 2025 hot takes. And oh boy, are we divided on this one, folks, because this is gonna go down as one of the most polarizing Royal Rumbles in the history of the WWE. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether they're good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes on there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. The next one being Elimination Chamber, which I'm hoping to be able to go to. By the way, if you are looking for my full review of the Royal Rumble with footage so you can see frame by frame exactly what it is that I'm talking about, that's already up and available over on patreon.com/SantiZap. Not only that, but you also get the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the podcast 3 days early, a bunch of watch-alongs that we of course can never post on here because of YouTube's copyright system blocking those types of videos. So go check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap, link in the description, as well as a link in the pinned comment for you. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring that bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am incredibly confident that you're gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. I can't wait to dive into these because, like I said, the whole world seems to be divided. Let's read your stupid shit. It's hard to imagine that the Gunther versus Jey Uso match would deserve a main event spot at WrestleMania, given the handful of other big money matches on the card. I'm really interested to see whether they stay committed to this plan or if something unexpected shakes things up. So I know why the Jey Uso versus Gunther WrestleMania main event match doesn't seem particularly appetizing and why it doesn't seem like it's worthy of a WrestleMania main event banner and headline. And it's partly because of what you pointed out, the other insane possibilities that we have in the main event scene that truly and genuinely are WrestleMania main event worthy, but that's not the only reason why. I feel like the main reason is because they already burned Jey Uso versus Gunther last week at Saturday night's main event. I feel like the only way to get genuinely and truly excited for Jey Uso versus Gunther as a WrestleMania headliner is to pretend like Saturday night's main event never happened. To me, the thing that got buried the most coming out of the Royal Rumble was the importance of Saturday night's main event, because many of the things that happened tonight at the Royal Rumble really just discredited many of the things that happened at Saturday night's main event. Like Jey Uso winning, like the Jacob Fatu elimination by Braun Strowman, who magically came back after being murdered on TV. So I'm down with the idea of shaking things up. So what would shaking things up be? I feel like number one is not having Jey Uso go after Gunther. Instead, having him go after Cody Rhodes, somebody that is starting to slip. His mask is starting to fall off. The crown is starting to feel a little bit too heavy and is starting to show those tendencies of Homelander Cody. And let's not forget, the last time that these two genuinely got to embrace was when Cody Rhodes says, "Until we yeet again. Maybe we yeet again at WrestleMania." The other way to potentially spice things up is maybe the CM Punk favor. Maybe CM Punk is able to insert himself in a triple threat environment so that Jey Uso versus Gunther versus CM Punk now all of a sudden becomes a far more appealing affair compared to just Jey Uso versus Gunther. Me personally, I'm down for Jey versus Cody. That to me is such a bonkers out of left field main event that I'm down for it. And we haven't seen it before, but I'm tired. I don't want to see Gunther versus Jey Uso again. I want to move on from that. IShowSpeed may have taken the nastiest spear of all time. That was one of the funniest celebrity appearances that I've ever seen in the WWE because Braun Breaker, good Lord, did not hold back on poor IShowSpeed. Somebody that is like a quarter of the size of Braun Breaker got run over with one of the nastiest looking spears I've ever seen. And not only that, he got chucked over the table as well. Thank you, IShowSpeed, for putting your body on the line the way that you did, because we know that you don't have to because you're a gazillionaire, but good Lord. I know a lot of people are mad at the idea that IShowSpeed took away a spot from somebody on the main roster or somebody from NXT, but honestly, I feel like this appearance worked. It served its purpose. It was entertaining. And it's not as if WWE burned multiple spots. It was just one. And the person that it was gonna go to was a main roster guy in Tozawa. And in my opinion, having Tozawa being beaten up the way that he did worked with his character and further developed him as a lovable guy that just gets beat up all the time. And it set it up for Speed. So I'm okay with it. I was thoroughly entertained by it. I'm confused. I can't shake the feeling that this was an audible. Jey lost to Gunther a week ago just to have a Mania main event versus him. Something went wrong. I don't think that this was an audible. I don't think that anything went wrong. I feel like this was the plan all along. It's probably been the plan for multiple weeks, maybe multiple months. But yeah, Saturday night's main event completely adds this weird fog to what just happened at the Royal Rumble with Jey Uso's victory. It just shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have pulled the trigger on having a Jey Uso World Championship match this close to his Rumble victory. That's the reason why it feels odd. That's the reason why it doesn't feel real. It's the reason why it doesn't feel like, even though the victory is so out of left field, why it might not feel like this big, gigantic needle mover. But the reason why it feels that way, one, is because of Saturday night's main event, and two, is because people really just are not considering the idea that Jey Uso might not go after Gunther, that he could go after Cody Rhodes. Like I said in a previous hot take, if you were to go after Cody Rhodes, I feel like this changes the dynamic of everything, and I'm interested. Last year, people complained that they chose the two most obvious people to win the Rumble. When they go with the unpredictable results, people still complain. This is very true, but you also have to remember that we are the internet wrestling community. We are like 1% of the wrestling fan base. We are a very loud minority. We are not the true representation of how the overall fan base of the WWE feels about the Jey Uso victory. I don't love it. Again, I'm intrigued and I'm willing to give this a chance, and I'm optimistic about what they can do with Jey Uso leading into WrestleMania. I would have preferred multiple other options. This would have been like my 6th, 7th option to go with. But the reality is that with them going with the 6th or 7th most likely option, it completely took me out of left field. It was unpredictable. And because of that, I'm here for it. I'm intrigued. I'm interested that WWE still in 2025 can catch me off guard and actually surprise me. But you're right. When the predictable outcome happens that is safe, that gives us the match that we want, people complain. But when they try something new, something different, rather than giving it a chance and seeing where it could go and where it could develop, people just want to shit on it instantly. I'm not going to jump on either bandwagon. I'm not on the bandwagon that, yeah, this is the greatest idea ever to have Jey Uso win. I'm also not going to jump on the bandwagon that this is a god-awful, toilet, barf-inducing idea. I'm just going to let it play out. I am concerned, but intrigued at the same time. Nights like this is why I love wrestling. The dirt sheets didn't even say Jey Uso would win, and that's why it was so awesome. I can't wait to see what happens on Raw. So I've always told people, especially at this time of year, to just like not read dirt sheets about the Royal Rumble. One, because it's gonna spoil like one of the funnest events of the entire year, wrestling Christmas, for God's sakes. But two, I don't know that this is true, but I've convinced myself that the WWE feeds these dirt sheets false information going into the Royal Rumble. Like, yeah, Alexa Bliss is never gonna show up. She's so mad with the WWE. They're so far apart on her contract, only for her to show up. So I always tell people, don't read dirt sheets this close to the Royal Rumble. The Jey Uso hate is so forced. It wouldn't make sense for John Cena, who hasn't won a match since 2018, to all of a sudden just waltz in and win the Rumble. The whole point of his story is for him to have a fight for the title, not for it to just be handed to him. I was interested in the first part of your argument that the Jey Uso hate is forced, and then you literally just forced some John Cena hate propaganda immediately following afterwards. Why doesn't it make sense for Cena to waltz in and win the Rumble? It does make sense, because it's John fucking Cena, and on top of that, I can make the argument, why does it make sense for Jey Uso to win when he literally just lost the biggest match of his career the week before? We can go back and forth trading jabs at Jey Uso or John Cena, but that's not really the point of this. I think John Cena would have been a perfect winner for this. I don't think that Jey Uso is a perfect winner. I feel like Jey Uso is far from a perfect winner, but the fact that he's far from a perfect winner is what makes him an intriguing option. It makes him sink or swim. I feel like this could colossally fail or end up being incredibly amazing. John Cena is the safe choice. John Cena is the choice that 100% would have worked and everyone would have been okay with. Jey Uso is not that choice, but as I've already said, it's the fact that it's so unpredictable what they're going to do with him that makes him a good choice. But don't sit here and try to belittle John Cena's ability to win something big when I can do the exact same thing about Jey Uso. Get that garbage out of here. Beyond wrestling, I'm just sad for CM Punk. He is getting old. This was probably his last last chance to win the Rumble. 2026 Rumble is in Saudi, meaning that he won't appear. His next Rumble appearance will be in 2027, where he will be 48 years old. He will never be a Rumble winner. Listen, I really am of the mantra to never say never when it comes to professional wrestling. Let's not forget that Edge won the Royal Rumble damn near pushing 50, coming back of a career-ending injury that took 10 years of his career. Let's not forget that Triple H won the Rumble also pushing 50 in 2016. Punk has the opportunity and the ability to still win the Rumble even at 48, 49, 50, 51, because it's not just about physical ability, it's about overall star power. It's the reason why we bought into John Cena, even though John Cena is still way past his prime. So I wouldn't close the casket on CM Punk's ability to still win a Royal Rumble at some point in his career, even if he isn't in next year's Royal Rumble. On top of that, him winning the Royal Rumble isn't the prize. The prize has and it will always be a WrestleMania main event for CM Punk. That's what we should more. I mean, CM Punk doesn't end up having a WrestleMania main event before his career is done. That's exactly what we should be crying about, not necessarily the Royal Rumble. I don't like that Jey won the Rumble, but let's not act like it wasn't one of the best Rumbles of all time. This right here is how people should be reacting, not this, the Rumble is ruined because X person won and the person that I wanted to win didn't win. The person that you don't want to win sometimes wins, but it doesn't ruin everything else that was built, because that men's Rumble, whether you love Jey Uso winning, whether you hated it, whether you're like me where you're sitting on the fence and just kind of seeing where the egg is going to land, that men's Rumble was unbelievably good in terms of the star power that was there and the way that it was structured from beginning to end. It had literally 3 parts. The first portion of it was amazing in-ring wrestler with some of WWE's best in-ring performers like Ray, Chad Gable, Carmelo Hayes, Penta, Santos Escobar, and then we move into the monsters of the mid-card, the Braun Strowmans, the Braun Breaker, the Jacob Fatus. We have Joe Hendry show up in there, and then Act 3 happens where all of the super crazy stars come out, like Drew McIntyre, Roman, Cena, Punk, Seth, and of course, Logan Paul. This is just so beautifully structured, and it led to so many great, awesome moments in the Rumble as well. So many great little micro feuds being formed and giant WrestleMania main events potentially being formed with the likes of CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. The structure, the skeleton of the Rumble was amazing. And if you want to look past that and crumble everything simply because you didn't like the winner, you're doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion. Bro, that is so far. Oh my word. It happened again. Are you kidding me?
God.
Oh, good Lord. Crowd absolutely loves Daniel Bryan. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was a sneak peek of this week's Royal Rumble-centric Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week we're looking at Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit from the Royal Rumble 2003. Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from Royal Rumble 2015. Alexa Bliss versus Bianca Belair at the Royal Rumble 2023. The gruesome Rock versus Mankind I Quit match from Royal Rumble 1999. Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble 2014. And CM Punk versus The Rock for the WWE Championship at Royal Rumble 2013. That's right, 6 matches this week instead of 5. You're going to be getting all of this, plus the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else, and you're going to get the Undertaker Streak watch-along that we're doing, and the Royal Rumble watch-alongs that we've been doing for the past several months as well. All of these are exclusively available to Patreon because we can't show them on YouTube because YouTube automatically blocks anything with footage. So we quite literally can never show it here. It's only on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/SantiZap. I'm going to put a link in the description as well as a link in the pinned comment for you. If you're already supporting on Patreon, thank you so much. If you aren't, just consider it just for 1 month. I'm really confident that you're going to fall in love with it, even if you try for 1 month. That's enough. Let's get you back to the video. Trick Williams not getting a spot in this year's Rumble over Joe Hendry was a tremendous slap in the face. He carried NXT's men's division this year and earned his spot. Joe Hendry earned nothing. Okay, chill. Again, I hate when people do this, when they try to prop up somebody while at the same time putting somebody down. What the hell do you mean Joe Hendry earned nothing? This guy's been wrestling significantly longer than Trick Williams, has been eating shit for such a long time in the indies. He's finally climbed to the top of still another indie promotion in TNA. He absolutely has earned his path in the world of professional wrestling. Would it have been cool to have Trick Williams in the Rumble? Sure. Would it have been cool to have Obafemi in the Rumble? That would have been cool as well. But this Rumble was about how stacked the actual main roster was. There was, yes, Joe Hendry is a special little extra treat to really cement the deal between TNA and the WWE. But again, I wonder why people think it's fine to prop up somebody while putting somebody down. Alexa Bliss, out of all women and men, undoubtedly had the return pop of the night. You goddamn right. In fact, I feel like this was one of WWE's fumbles. Not that she didn't win, but where she was placed in the Rumble. I'm somebody that loves Nikki Bella. It's one of like my wrestling dark secrets. It's my guilty pleasure that I like Nikki Bella in professional wrestling because of just how many people despise her. Sometimes I'm afraid to admit it, okay? But I'm willing to admit that this should have been the 30 entrant and that the place where Alexa Bliss came out, that's where Nikki Bella should have came out. I feel like if they had to swap the two in terms of where they came out, it would have been better structured. The pop would have been better for Nikki Bella and the pop would have been even louder, even though it already was loud for Alexa Bliss. But I'm so pumped that she's back. I'm really curious as to what kind of Alexa Bliss we have. Is this a supernatural Alexa? She's carrying around the Lily doll, which makes that connection with the Fiend, which if you have a connection with the Fiend, now has a connection with the Wyatt Six. And if you have a connection with the Wyatt Six, are you going to join the Wyatt Six? Who knows? There's a lot of cool questions at play, and it started here at the Royal Rumble, and I'm so glad that she got the pop that she had. And this is why I tell people to not read dirt sheets or believe them this close to the Royal Rumble. Never bring Royal Rumble to Indianapolis or any PLE ever again. Who's going to tell them that they have both SummerSlam and WrestleMania at some point down the line? Yeah, Indianapolis was not a particularly great crowd. I was nervous about the Royal Rumble crowd considering the Friday Night SmackDown crowd was quiet as hell. I don't feel like the Rumble crowd was like the worst crowd of all time, but I don't feel like they made the noise that Pat McAfee promised us that they would. For God's sake, Pat McAfee tried to compare Indianapolis to France. That was probably mistake number one right there, but I would have wished that we would have walked away with a better feeling of Indianapolis as a host city of wrestling shows, at the very least as a host set of fans, because they left a lot to be desired, and it does bring some concern about upcoming SummerSlams and WrestleManias. Charlotte winning isn't bad. We wanted Stratton versus Flair anyway. Here's the thing, we wanted Flair versus Stratton. That is the match that I think all of us were married to, all of us locked in, and all of us wanted to see. That is the one good thing that comes back from the fact that Charlotte Flair won the Royal Rumble. The thing is that Charlotte Flair didn't need to win this to get a match with Tiffany Stratton. I've made the joke before that Charlotte Flair could fart and get a WrestleMania main event. She could have farted a couple times and gotten this match against Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania, and everybody would have been on board with it because this was a match that we already wanted to see, and we frankly just don't need really forced story narratives and plot devices like winning the Royal Rumble to get us this. That's why it feels like they burned the winner of the Royal Rumble on Charlotte Flair. One, because she didn't need it. Two, because it was incredibly telegraphed with the pyro and the crazy grandiose entrance that she got. And three, the fact that they didn't have her be a surprise entrant. They pre-announced her. If they hadn't put her as a surprise entrant, this would have been a more palatable win. I would have been a bit more on board. But again, I reiterate, she didn't need this Rumble victory. It's not the end of the world that she won, but somebody else could have benefited from this significantly more while still landing us on the same path towards Charlotte versus Tiffany Stratton. And I've seen the argument that, yeah, but having Tiffy go against the Royal Rumble winner makes her more credible. Sure, I get that, but this is Charlotte Flair. She doesn't need credibility. She already has 14 world titles. She already is a first ballot Hall of Famer. She's going to go down in terms of accolades as the greatest of all time in the WWE. She doesn't need credibility, folks. Carmelo Hayes getting eliminated first has officially told us Melo ain't getting pushed anytime soon. I don't want to jump to these conclusions, but these are the conclusions that my toxic wrestling brain actually sometimes jumps to, because if you look at my predictions video, I said Carmelo Hayes was going to be the Iron Man of the Royal Rumble. That ended up being Penta, which, by the way, was a really pleasant surprise how well they used him in the men's Royal Rumble match, but I really felt that that spot should have gone to Carmelo Hayes, considering he has sort of been the spiritual Iron Man of Friday Night SmackDown, being in so many matches, so many feuds, and putting on banger after banger every single night. I really believe that we were going to get that kind of outing from Carmelo Hayes, something that was a stamp of approval demonstrating that they recognize recognize how good of a worker he is and that he can make so many people look good in the Royal Rumble, but instead they chose to have him be the first one eliminated, and I also believe that that was a bit of a fumble. Jey Uso was not the correct choice to win the Rumble. What was the correct choice to win the Rumble? Because I don't feel like anybody had the correct choice. I feel like last year's Women's Rumble had the correct choice. We all wanted Bayley. It made sense for it to be Bayley, and then went with Bayley. But this year, when it comes to both Rumbles, there was no correct winner. Like I said, there were like 4, 5, 6 different contenders that legitimately made sense to win the Rumble match this year. And they chose to go with an oddball answer, something out of the norm, something that spelled, hey, yeah, it was the most stacked Royal Rumble, but one of those guys that wasn't part of the narrative that everyone was talking about that made this such a stacked Royal Rumble, that's the person that won. And it makes them stand out amongst a sea of absolute megastars and monsters on the main roster. That's one of the arguments that you can make as to why Jey Uso is the correct winner. You can also say he's the correct winner because he's uberly popular. You can say he's the correct winner because people want to see him win a world championship. But I could also make a great case for like 6 other dudes as to why they were the correct winner. So to say that Jey Uso is not the correct choice for the Royal Rumble, sir, that is your opinion. There's just no way to demonstrate concretely who the correct choice was because it was just so varied this year. And it wasn't just varied within the match, it's just varied in terms of where things could go to WrestleMania because it could go one of like 24 different ways when it comes to main events with titles, with non-titles, etc. Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble over John Cena may single-handedly be the worst booking decision in the last 20 years. Tell me when I'm telling lies. I mean, good God, like, I see what I mean. Like, just, oh man, this is just dumb. Like, straight up just dumb. The worst booking decision of the last 20 years. Have you been watching wrestling for the last 20 years? Did you watch a minute of wrestling in the pandemic? Did you watch a second of wrestling in the 2010s when bad booking decisions weren't something that happened every once in a while, but were something that happened every single goddamn week? And you want to sit here and tell me that Jey Uso winning one of the most entertaining Royal Rumbles ever is the worst booking decision of the last 20 years? My friend, that is one of the biggest lies that you've ever told. So let me be the first one to formally tell you, you're telling fucking lies. Joe Hendry was completely wasted on that crowd. To be fair, Joe Hendry was wasted in general. They should have had him at last year's Royal Rumble during the height of the Joe Hendry meme. They took too long to put him in the WWE. It was far too late when they put him on NXT, and it was definitely far too late when TNA made him world champion. I feel like TNA kind of did Joe Hendry a bit of a disservice taking so long to make him their top superstar in TNA. Had this happened at last year's Royal Rumble, I don't feel like it would have been like a crowd thing because Indianapolis was quieter than other crowds or whatever. The pop just would have been legendary because that was when Joe Hendry was far and away the most popular he had ever been. So I just don't think that there's any crowd now moving forward that could give us the legendary Joe Hendry pop that we're expecting off the back of how popular he was last year. Jey winning was the right decision. There are so many good options, but they still gave us something totally unexpected. Also advances Cena's struggle to get to the top again and sets up Roman, Punk, Rollins for a Mania feud. Cinema. This is what I mean. It's incredibly split. Some people loved it. Some people hated it, folks. I love that you mentioned the other bits of the fallout, not just talking about Jey Uso winning, because this does raise the question, what do you do with Cena? Does Cena go after a world title? Does he feud with Logan Paul because he was the one that eliminated Logan Paul? Who knows? Maybe we have Punk versus Seth versus Roman in a triple threat match at WrestleMania. Maybe it's just Roman versus Seth and Punk goes after Cody. Punk goes after Gunther. There's still so many unanswered questions off the back of this Royal Rumble. Normally the Royal Rumble is what answers so many questions going into WrestleMania, but I still have a ton of questions. And weirdly enough, I'm seeing a lot of people saying that because there are a ton of questions, that equals bad. That because you don't have a proper look at what WrestleMania 41, that this was a bad Rumble. When in my opinion, having questions and not being able to easily telegraph what's going to happen over the next several months is a good thing. It went from one of the best men's Rumbles to the worst when we got to the final 3. There you go, folks. Just another example of somebody just ruining the night for themselves because their favorite or the person that they like wasn't in the final 3 or the winner. Don't be like this. The Rumble itself was fantastic. That is just objectively true in terms of the star power, the people that were in it, the moments, the spots, the structure of the actual Rumble itself. The one thing that is subjective is whether you agree or disagree disagree with the winner, and that is the one bit that you shouldn't let ruin the entire thing for you. We need to keep these Royal Rumble data graphics from now on. It's a really great addition, and it helps us keep track of everything that's going on in the Rumble. I agree. I love those lower thirds. I love that it's not just the countdown. It's telling us who's coming out, what country they're from. They're keeping track of how long somebody has been in the Rumble, how many eliminations that they have. I love the entire presentation of this. I think Cena is going to have the same road to WrestleMania as Seth Rollins did in 2022. Okay, I kind of vibe with that. Just Cena going into WrestleMania saying, I demand the match. I'm John Cena. I'm one of the pillars of this company. I'm one of the GOATs. I've earned a match at my last WrestleMania, and then it ends up being a mystery opponent. The question is there a big enough mystery opponent that we could potentially get to warrant it being John Cena's last match? Could it be a returning Randy Orton from injury? Maybe they keep him off all the way through to WrestleMania to give us that surprise entrance so that we finally get the John Cena Randy Orton match that we never properly got at WrestleMania. That's an idea. I don't think that there's just somebody from the indies from AEW that could warrant being John Cena's last WrestleMania match, sadly. But I like the idea. I like kind of where your brain is at here with John Cena if it's not going after any titles, Intercontinental or World. The Women's Rumble was amazing. The pacing of it was so real, and there were almost no dull moments. It had great entries, and every woman looked amazing. There were so many great moments with women who are feuding as well. Definitely one of the best Women's Rumbles I've seen. I agree with you 85% of the way there. I thought it was one of the best Rumbles that I've seen from the women's side in terms of star power, the actual in-ring quality that we were getting, some of the cool returns, even Nikki Bella returning, which a lot of people hated, but I personally liked. But it was the Nia Jax spot that ruined, to me, the Rumble, because it eliminated so many contenders that could have added drama to the final 5 minutes of the match that they just completely wasted on one spot to make Nia Jax look monstrous when she already is the monster of the Rumble. She didn't need to look more monstrous. But eliminating favorites like Bianca Belair, like Naomi, who both had a really interesting storyline going into this, eliminating Io Sky, Liv Morgan, all of these names that could have created some interesting potential WrestleMania main event worthy feuds and storylines that could bring the ripple effect of the end of the Rumble. All of that was thrown away, and instead what we got was a dull moment with all of those women getting eliminated, the air being sucked out of the room, and a final three that was incredibly telegraphed, where you knew that the WWE wasn't going to be brave enough to give it to Roxanne Perez, a relative unknown among main roster fans. They weren't going to give it to Nia Jax, so they had to give it to Charlotte. So I mostly love the Women's Rumble, but I do feel like they didn't stick the landing personally. The NBA saw Jey Uso getting all the spotlight and said, hold my beer. Fellas, what the hell? In the middle of the night, seemingly out of nowhere, Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers and then AD to the Mavericks? What is Dallas thinking? What are you doing? So close. I've been pitching Roxanne to win for weeks, but she was the runner-up. Great showing for Roxanne. She's going to do big things on the main roster after her call-up. Yeah, everything about this is just fundamentally true. Roxanne Perez had an amazing showing at the Women's Royal Rumble. Not just Roxanne Perez, who, like you said, had a great showing, runner-up, Iron Woman, broke the Iron Woman record by staying in the Rumble nearly an hour and 8 freaking minutes, but all of NXT was represented incredibly well with Roxanne Perez, Stephanie Vaquer, Julia. We had Jada Parker out there. We had Lash Legend as well. So NXT was very well represented in this Rumble, which once again did a great job of showing us just how insanely deep the women's bag is for the WWE, not just on the main roster, but in their developmental system as well. The women's roster in the WWE is safe for generations to come. That ladder match was not only the single best ladder match ever, but is in the top 5 WWE matches ever. The spots were phenomenal. It felt real, and I wanted it to go for another hour. It doesn't get much better. Hey, I love that you thought it was one of the best ladder matches of all time. I love that you think this is one of the greatest matches of all time. I thought it was fantastic. Maybe I just don't hold it in the same high regard as you, but I thought that this was maybe the best match of the entire night. This is going to go down as one of my favorite matches of the year as well. I think what I liked about this was that this wasn't a traditional ladder match where they were using the verticality of the ladders to demonstrate how dangerous the ladder match is. Instead, they just had a fight that just happened to include ladders. One of the things that I wanted to get out of this match specifically was something that felt like a true and genuine grudge match, something like Hell in a Cell between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, but I just wasn't convinced that the WWE would actually put the face of the company, Cody Rhodes, through that type of match. But damn it, they absolutely did, and it was fantastic. The spots were absolutely nasty, gruesome. The storytelling, the physicality, physical storytelling was out of this world. The result was the correct result, and the post-match with him doing his celebration on top of a dying, dead corpse of Kevin Owens with Sami Zayn trying to help him, to me, added even more layers to this potential downfall of the king that is Cody Rhodes. Hey, all I know is that in pretty much every moment in history, every kingdom has eventually fallen. I thought this was the best Rumble ever. From Jordan Grace joining WWE, to DIY and Motor City Machine Guns, to the Alabama Slam onto the ladder, to Joe Hendry debuting at the Rumble and Jey winning. This was really entertaining. So Sarah is doing vacuuming upstairs, which means the dog, Dwayne the Dog Johnson, by the way, is incredibly scared. So he's here looking for refuge. So he's going to be here for the rest of the video. So there's nothing like fundamentally different that this person said with this hot take that we haven't already talked about. But I picked this because, believe it or not, over all of the thousands of replies that this thread got for hot takes, this was the only one to mention DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns, an unbelievably great match that seemingly got no love from the internet because no one talked about it, and seemingly got no love from the people in Indianapolis who made no noise for it. But I thought the match was great. It absolutely earned its spot with the storytelling leading into the Royal Rumble. It had a great needle mover moment for the tag team division of Friday Night SmackDown with the return seemingly of the heel Street Profits, which I believe the tag team division desperately needed since they just lost A-Town Down Under to the Raw roster. So yeah, this needs to be talked about a little bit more. Originally, I was on board with Cena not winning it, but after the ladder match and the appearance of Cody Lander, he is the perfect man to bring him back down. Here's the thing, who says that we can't get Cody Rhodes versus John Cena? John Cena has already declared himself for the Elimination Chamber match, and it's possible that he wins it, especially if CM Punk and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are in it, and they cost each other the match again like they did at the Royal Rumble. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Cody versus Cena is still on the table, or Cena versus Gunther is still on the table. So don't lose hope, fellas. Don't lose hope. All right, folks, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for submitting in your Royal Rumble hot takes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Get out of here.